The Triangle BattleTech Tournament is a local event that is held annually at Hangar 18 Hobbies in Cary, North Carolina. The 2024 tournament was the first weekend of October. This video is going to cover the list that I decided to bring to the tournament and the games that I played with it. Forces for the tournament needed to consist of 4 to 6 mechs adding up to at most 7,500 BV. Only equipment from Total Warfare or the Battle Mech manual was allowed, and you couldn't take artillery even though Aero 4 systems are in the manual. Every unit taken needed to be a different chassis, and named or unique variants were off the board. The only non-canon unit allowed was the Greyhound from the Mech Bay podcast. Mech Warrior skills could be from 3 to 5, but on a given unit they needed to be within 1 of each other, so no 3-5 pilots. I had finished painting my Black Marauder about a month before the tournament, and with the tournament falling in October, I decided that I wanted to bring it in my list. I also wanted to pick the scariest Marauder variant that I could run it as. With the Omni Marauder not allowed due to being a unique unit, I looked at my other options. The MAD 6L with stealth armor and plasma rifles was tempting, but I decided to go with the MAD 11D for its firepower. It carries 2 clan ER PPCs and a silver bullet Gauss as its main weapons, that would let it both hole punch and crit fish at long ranges. Staying on theme, I maxed out its skills at 3-3. That boosted its BV to 3,259, which meant it was eating up almost half of my force's total BV. Next, I had to decide what to bring with my Black Marauder. And the obvious answer was pirates. I had painted a pirate urban mech modeled on the plushie and inflatable at the beginning of the year, and there was no way I could bring pirates without including it. While I had low hopes for any urban mech accomplishing much in battle, I wanted to pick a tough one, so I went with the UM R96 that has hardened armor, a snub-nosed PPC, and improved jump jets for an astonishing 3-jump MP. The scenario pack for the tournament was available in advance, so I knew one game would involve hidden objectives and enemies, and I would want an active probe. I did a search through my unpainted minis to see which ones I could take for a probe, and the one that stood out was the Shadowcat. It has a few options that carry a probe, but the config that seemed like the best pick for me was the T because it had a lower BV cost while still carrying useful firepower with an ultra autocannon 10 and a pair of medium pulse lasers. I still needed at least one more mech to fill out my list. For my unpainted minis, I felt like a Blackjack was a fitting choice for a pirate band. I decided to go with the BJ2R variant that carries 2 large re-engineered lasers. I know locally we have some fans of specialty armor on mechs like the Hammerhead, so I figured these lasers could come in handy, and even if I didn't run into special armors, they're still accurate with a -1 modifier to hit. Then I came up with a call sign for each of my mech warriors and my force was complete. The 4 mechs came in at a total of 7,483 BV after improving piloting to 4 on the 3 pirates. It should be obvious, but I was not approaching this tournament to try to win it. This is a silly list with some big flaws. My goal was to get in 3 fun games and hopefully kill some stuff with the Black Marauder. The biggest weaknesses in my list were mobility and numbers. I'd be at best tied for number of units and other players could be bringing 1 or 2 more mechs than I'd have. Compounding that, my list put a lot of its BV budget into a single unit that could only be in one place at a time. Then the Shadowcat was my only mech that could move faster than 4-6, and the urban mech would be jumping around at just 3 hexes per turn. This list would have a hard time in any scenarios requiring movement to objectives, and all 3 of this tournament scenarios did require moving to objectives. The first round scenario was data retrieval. For this one, both players had 4 objective markers and up to 2 of their mechs on their half of the board. Objectives could be discovered by any mech within 2 hexes or by active probes. Locating an objective was worth 1 victory point, and downloading one and returning to your half of the board was worth another 2 victory points. For this round, I was up against Josh from the Mech Bay podcast. He brought a Legacy 5, an Exterminator 7X, a Greyhound 18, a Raijin 101A, and an Oscout 8J. My plan for this game was to use my Shadowcat and Blackjack to look for objectives, while my Marauder and Urban Mech focused on fighting. I started with the Black Marauder and Urban Mech hidden towards the middle of the board, assuming they'd be located quickly. I wanted them in position to start shooting. Josh's Oscout had a Bloodhound probe, which means he was able to uncover all of my objectives turn 1, and then have his Oscout and Exterminator work on retrieving them. I was able to get all 4 of his objectives revealed within a few turns, and my Shadowcat picked up 2 as it moved around. My Blackjack lived up to the call sign I had given it by falling on its own back and damaging its gyro. After that, it did manage to stand back up, but it got destroyed by the Greyhound and Raijin. Lucky indeed. My Urban Mech did exactly what I could hope for, and absorbed fire from the Legacy while standing still and hitting back. Unfortunately, it and the Black Marauder ended up just not being enough to take down the Assault Mech. As the game neared its ending, I tried to stop the Exterminator from getting back to Josh's side with 2 objectives, but didn't land enough damage to take it down. The game ended with Josh winning 10-8. He had taken out my Blackjack for 1,250 BV destroyed, and I hadn't managed to destroy any of his mechs. After that first game, the schedule had a break for lunch, but before leaving the store we all had to set up our forces for paint judging. Then a few of us headed over to the nearby Taco Bell to eat and chat. We talked a bit about how our first games had gone and then the 2 upcoming scenarios. After lunch, I took a look around the other forces and picked which one would get my vote for Best Painted. The scenario for Game 2 was Push the Line. We would place objectives on the center line and then push them toward the enemy side by putting mechs on them. The heavier the mech, the more the objective would be pushed. Victory points would be earned based on how far you had pushed objectives at the end of the game, with 1 to 3 points per objective depending on the distance moved. For this round, my opponent was my friend Matt, the same one as in my most recent Alpha Strike battle report. For the tournament, he brought a Kingfisher Prime, a Catapult K5, an Uziel 8S, a Mongoose 66, and a Fire Moth P. With my force outnumbered, my plan for the game was to try to contest 3 of the objectives. As we moved onto the board, I weighted my forces towards objectives 1 and 2 on the right side. Matt's Kingfisher was the biggest threat and he moved it towards objective 1. It and the Black Marauder were on a collision course. The Dark One's luck was on my side though, and I got a through armor crit to its gyro on turn 1 and knocked it over. His Fire Moth ran into my backfield turn 2 and got behind my Blackjack, but I was able to flip its arms and take off one of the Fire Moth's legs. That effectively took it out of the fight. Unfortunately, while I was focused on finishing off the Kingfisher and his Mongoose on the right, I wasn't able to put up much resistance at all to him pushing objectives 3 and 4. My Urban Mech just was not up to stopping both an Uziel and a Catapult. By the end of the game, I had destroyed the Kingfisher through an abundance of critical hits and scored points for moving both objectives 1 and 2 forward. He had gotten 3 and 4 completely off my board though, so he won the game 6-2. This was my favorite scenario of the day. The moving objectives were fun while still allowing our mechs to slug it out in the game. The scenario for the third and final round was Truck Escort. For this game, we would each have 6 objective tokens that we would be trying to move across the map. While labeled as trucks, they were not following the vehicle rules at all, and instead could move 7 hexes per turn while ignoring terrain and turning. If a marker took 50 damage, it would be destroyed. They also couldn't move through or adjacent to enemy mechs. Each truck that you moved off the edge would be worth 1 victory point, and so would each enemy truck that you managed to destroy. My opponent this round was Joshua. He's a local player who I actually hadn't had the chance to play with before. His list consisted of a Warcrow C, a Hollander 2F7, a Carrion Crow A, a Mistlink C, and a Locust C. That selection outnumbered my force and had a lot more mobility. The ferrolamellar armor on the Warcrow and the Carrion Crow also meant that those two would effectively be immune to the Silver Bullet Goss on my Marauder. Our game ended up being very focused on movement. The Tundra map had enough hills that we were mostly trying to keep our objectives out of sight from each other. Our mechs took a few shots at each other, but mostly tried to focus on the objectives. Joshua got lucky with attacks on one turn when one of my trucks ended up in the open and took it out. But that was the only truck destroyed during the game. We also each managed to lock down a pair of trucks during the final rounds by having a pair of mechs surround them. In the end, the truck he was able to destroy meant both that he got the victory point for destruction, plus that he was able to get one more objective off the board than me. That gave him a 5-3 victory. Neither of us destroyed any mechs during the game. This scenario ended up being the one where I felt the limitations of my list the most. I lacked the speed and numbers to effectively lock down movement on trucks or to even follow and escort my own trucks across the board. The focus on movement and positioning also meant that we had less shooting at each other, which made it feel the least fun out of the 3 scenarios of the day. After that last game wrapped up, the TOs finished tabulating scores, painting votes, and sportsmanship ratings before gathering all of us players up for the announcements. The tournament was giving prizes for first, second, and third in each of 3 categories: Tactician, Sportsman, and Painter. Thanks to generous support from Fortress Miniatures and Games and Thunderhead Studios, there were plenty of prizes. The trophy winners would get to pick first, but everybody would go home with something. I ended up taking home the trophy for third best sportsman. I picked a trio of salvage boxes as my prize. Those ended up containing a Stalker, a Rifleman, and a Shadowcat. Overall, the tournament was a lot of fun, even if I ended up not being able to kill as much as I would have liked with the Black Marauder. Huge thanks to Dustin, Denham, and Thiel for running it. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more from me, you can subscribe here on YouTube, at scottsgameroom.com, or on Patreon.